Hey everyone, Ekman here with another video, and today we've got a top 16 breakdown for my OP11 half case event that I ran last night. We had 128 players, 7 rounds of Swiss into this top 16, and real quick before we get started, first, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of content for the One Piece card game. Also, if you guys want to see any of the deck lists for this event and many others, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events, which is also linked in the description. Obviously, it's a little bit bare right now since the OP11 meta has just started, but we're going to be updating the website with more and more as we get into the format. And then lastly, if you guys want to find the live stream that we did, you can find it linked in the description. I also want to shout out Brian and Russell for being our co-commentators throughout the night, as well as CJ and Risu for being our judges for the event. I would not be able to run this event without them. So jumping on into this event, again, we did have 128 players, 7 rounds of Swiss, OP11 and the new star decks were legal for this event too. And of that, we do have this top 16 of 4 Betty, 3 copies of the blue and purple Luffy, 2 copies of the purple and black Luffy, and then single copies of the Lucci, Usopp, Buggy, Yamato, Newgate, and the green purple and mono purple Luffy. So a good amount of purple Luffy. I don't think that's too crazy for anyone. It did take up about 50% of this tournament, looking at the leader data or breakdown too. So again, not very surprising, though a lot of people are, there's a lot of different flavors of it right now, so you can choose the one that you like the most. Unsurprising to me that blue and purple Luffy was the most common one. I know a lot of people are on it, and it's still expected to be one of, if not the best deck into this format. But we also did have a lot of Betty to try to counteract that. I know a lot of people have been believing in Buggy, so we've been seeing a lot of that, and then a smattering of a couple other leaders too. So I also do know that the single copy of Newgate and single copy of Usopp were the ones at top 16. So to see these leaders still be at 1 copy and still be able to get a top 16 is really, really neat in my mind too. So we also are going to look at the top placing leader for each one of these leaders. We also do have 3 of the X2s that bubbled out of top 16 with Bonney, Smoker, and Carrot, so we'll look at those as well. But I also do want to mention that of this top 8, where pretty much top 8 was everyone who was able to get an X1 or better, we had 7 different leaders across that, which I think is crazy. So I do know the caliber of this event, right? 128 players, right? It's a pretty big local event, right? If you want to call it that way. It's not like a 5-12 event or a 10-24 for like a Treasure Cup or regionals, but I do think that this is a good mix of like just, a lot of people, some strong players too. It's not going to be, it's a bit of a forecast for future events. I don't think this is going to be the meta 100% for it. So I hope you guys also recognize that as we go over this too. So anyways, we're going to go into our first leader, which is going to be our Rob Lucci for this one. So I will fully admit that going into this format, Rob Lucci was a deck that I don't believe in and still don't. I know it won my event. All right. I know what it is, but I do think that the deck does have potential to be good. I do think that there are still some matchups that are going to be tough for it, but I do think that it's still Rob Lucci, right? Despite literally everything, despite it losing Ice Age, Moria, Innis Lobby, having what I think is like a very tough matchup for it. Buggy is very tough with it. Ben was still able to do well with it and get this first place with this build. So nothing really different. I think the biggest thing that most people are adaptating to is the Kuzan 10 drop. This is really good for the blue and purple matchup. Just makes it so they have to respect, all their things. Getting that -5 cost is tough. I also think that, blue and purple Luffy has a little bit of like a startup time. So that means that you do have time to play your own Kuzan and stuff. So that is strong. Does also mean like Bon Clay and Zorojuro are less good against this deck specifically. We do have like some additional reduction with the Shirahoshi and the Laboon. And then we still have like our favorite Kuzan and Rob Lucci too. So I do think that Rob Lucci does have a lot of strengths for against some matchups because of the removal still. It is really the only deck that I see that has like mass removal still left in the game. I know that Marco is still like mildly present. We did have 1 or 2, and that has a lot of removal potential, but it's still I think relevant, and I think that was a mistake on my side for putting it in. I think put in experimental just because I wasn't convinced one way or the other. So I think, and maybe it was a little hopeful, right? We've seen Rob Lucci just be present for the last year of this game with its release in OP7, almost here with release in OP7. But removal is still a good thing in this game. It still can get the win, and honestly, I do want to say like a big congratulations to Ben for running and being able to perform with this deck too. I do think like there are a lot of pitfalls to try to navigate in this format, and I think he did a really, really good job. So here's the build here from Ben. Congratulations for their first place with Rob Lucci, proving me wrong and getting that first place. decks. Next up, we've got Betty. So this is Mike's version of the deck here, and Betty's just in a good spot. I will say Betty's been out for a year and a half. It came out in OP05, and every format, almost everyone's like, is this the format that Betty's going to be good? Like, is this it? Like, this is the time. And it's never really done much, right? It's gotten like the occasional top here and there. I won't say that it's never topped, but it's not been a deck that I think has been widely viable in any format before this one. So with the kind of addition of like just a lot of these purple decks that are kind of also a little bit greedy early for setting up and taking cards from their life too, Betty has a lot of room to be able to set up and just do like a lot of damage. I will say that Rob Lucci is its worst matchup by far, which, spoilers, was finals. It's in my mind, it's like an 80-20 format in Rob Lucci's favor. Just the amount of removal, just a well-timed 4-drop Rob Lucci just ruins any momentum that you have, and I do think it's very tough for the deck. I do think Mike did a very good job, though, in the matchup and played to their outs and made it closer than I thought it would be, if I'm being super honest. So I think Betty is definitely relevant in this meta compared to a lot of other times where people have theorized it. So it's definitely a matchup where you either have to like adjust to it, make sure you realize that this is a deck that you need to play against, and it's really tough if I will say the matchup spread for this meta where these decks are just diametrically opposed to themselves, right? The blue-purple Luffy and the Betty, if you have to do well against these decks, you have to approach them in two different complete ways, and that's really tough. That's really tough for a lot of decks to have a mildly good matchup, I think, into both these decks just based on how they're constructed. So I think that's something that you have to be aware of for Betty, but I think it's still it's really good in this format. I think people can finally start playing with it. It's also mildly cheap to play if you are newer to this game. I think this is a good deck for it. There's only like 2 super rares in the koala and the koala, right? And other than that, like most of these are just pretty cheap cards, and in my, at least they're the low rarity, I think they're pretty cheap. I don't think their price is spiked at all. But here's again the build from Mike. Congratulations for their second place with Betty. The next up, we've got 2 copies of the purple and black Luffy. This was the only leader that got 2 copies in the top 8, and honestly one of my favorite lists to play in this current meta. So we did get a lot of support from the new star decks with the Nico Robin, specifically just being another way to ramp on 3 or 4 Dawn, which is really nice. Also, this is the build here from Rodney, and we also have Anthony's build too. I will say that I do personally like this 3-drop Chopper just as like another blocker that we could play out, but also the fact that this could be great against like leaving Dawn up in like the mirror match. If they don't respect that, they could be tapped out for 3 Dawn or secretly only 2 Dawn with leader effect. This is really great. I do think that the new 6-drop Luffy is such a good add for this deck. Like it's just a great card. Just being able to be a 7k for very little cost throughout the game is great. Like the fact that it's on play is fine, but the when attacking is superb in my mind, because you just get to keep being a 7k, even though like it only sets you to a 7k base. I think that's still very, very good. So I will say specifically in Rodney's build, they are playing 2 copies of the Soba mask, which I personally don't understand how this card's supposed to work. I know functionally how this card works, but I'm not sure like where the advantage comes in, I guess is the way to say it. So I guess there are some times where like you get to, if you have more Dawn available in some turns, being able to play a 9k so you don't have to invest on into later turns, I guess that makes sense, right? But you're bouncing back like a 7 cost to play another 7 cost 9k that you get the plus 2k I guess later for it. So I have to test it out more. I definitely thought that this is a card that wasn't super viable, but having an X1 finish kind of convinces me that there's something with it. We are playing with like 4 of this Sanji, so like the play that you can do is you play this out, you attack with it, and then for 2 extra Dawn you get to bounce it back to your hand for later, and then you get to use that too. So I think that can be strong. It's just something that I know a lot of people have been theory crafting it, and I haven't really seen it with success in a build. So with this build from Rodney, I gotta try it out. So there it is. And then also for Anthony's build, I would say this is a little bit closer to the builds that I've been playing, though I will say that we are playing no blockers in the mid section of this game, right? Like either of them, like we have like the Frankie in the build from Anthony, which is I think more more what I'm used to. But the Zorojuro like is clearly a really good card in a deck that almost exclusively plays purple cards. Actually, in this build, like only plays purple Straw Hat cards outside of Trafalgar Law and Black Maria. So I do think that this is, the consistency add from that is really nice. If you go second, you don't always have to ramp either, which is really good for the deck too. So you can just go to 4 to 6 still. and you still get that kind of benefit. Really, the ramp I think is really only needed if you kind of go first, and so you go from 3 to 6 on the next turn, so you can still play your Luffy's and stuff. So other than that, I think there's a lot of just good generic support cards for the deck too. We see the Gatling, we see the Gum Gum Lightning, and we see the Gamma Knife for helping removal. I know some people aren't convinced on Black Maria all the time, but this card just being like a 2k that also helps you ramp, I think is fine for the deck. There's also the 3-drop Nico Robin, which I haven't been playing as much, but this being able to be a only Dawn -1 and being able to get a search is good too. So in general, like everything with these purple Luffy's leaders is always just a compromise of like, what are you actually losing Dawn for? Where is your value for them? And so being able to, Dawn -1 to get some more search, I think is fine and helps the deck too. So by and large, I think Purple Black Luffy is good. I think it's honestly one of the better purple Luffys in this format, and we'll have to see if it's that stands the test of time. But just being a 7k leader for this just makes it very, very good. So there it is. Congratulations to both Rodney and Anthony for their finishes. Next up, we got Usopp. So this is the build here from Nikita. And honestly, we've got no new cards from this build, right? We're still playing essentially the same OP10 Usopp that we've been seeing. The only, like, I would say off base add is the Solomon, which is so good for being able to put cards into our trash and also give the -2 cost for us. I do think that Gum Gum King Kong Gun is really good in this format right now. The fact that like I think double tack does well, and like the plus 6,000 is huge for like any deck right now. So it just means like your opponent has to respect the plus 6,000 that you have for us. I also think there's a lot of decks that just don't have great ways to interact with tiny blockers like Adeo as well as Bart, so that's helpful for the deck too. And honestly, like the Rebecca play to still play Zoro and either Luffy or Kiros out just gets so much value, especially if you still have the Coliseum out. So I know like the deck isn't like there's nothing like new from this build specifically, but I do think that it was a really good play from Nikita just to get into an X1 with Usopp. I don't know. I think I put Usopp in experimental on the tier list as well. And I think most people kind of agree. More people agreed on that one than Rob Lucci. But it's seemingly still a viable deck, and I'm curious to see how it does in the format wider. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Nikita for their finish with the Usopp. Next up, we've got Buggy, and so this is Takura's version of the deck here. And there's been a lot of builds from Buggy kind of floating around. I think it's one of the more anticipated leaders from the star decks that we got for this one. And specifically, I think it's pretty easy to just know what the good cards are, right? Croc and Mihawk is very good. You play 4 copies of this card for sure. Buggy 10-drop, you still play 4 copies of, right? We're playing the shoe Buggy, the promo Buggy as people have been calling it. The 7-drop Croc from OP09 and the 6-drop Mihawk. So, right, I think most of those are pretty understood for the deck in general. And then it's kind of like just a couple of tech choices from there. Yeah, people are still kind of deciding on if they like it or not. So I generally like Sanji Pilaf. I think that card generally gets run, but we're not seeing that one. We are just playing the Cross Guild to be able to search for essentially every card in our deck outside of the Daz Bones. We do also have like the Richie and Moji. So the Moji 5-drop 2K. That also can play out the Richie. I do like this card actually. I think this is like a great card for us just to be able to get some a blocker out if we need like another one. It's pretty easy for us to kind of find room for 2 extra Dawn in the mid to late game a lot of the times, and the fact that like sometimes like Richie can find it to play it, which is good. We are playing the Pudding, which does just kind of win some matchups. So it's you guys know Pudding, right? We don't have to talk about how good Pudding is at sometimes. So there it is. We are all playing 1 copy of the 4-drop Buggy, which I do know like this card is like a little bit tough. Like the only time like this card gets real value I find is that either you play it on 4 and you're able to go into 6-drop Mihawk, or you're able to play this on 5 to play the Buggy to then also play the 6-drop Mihawk. So I think the card isn't terrible, but I think like when the only real good card to play it is Mihawk and we only have 4 copies of it, it's difficult. And we're also kind of on like a timer when Buggy is useful as a card. I do understand like why it's one of the easier cards from this deck to kind of cut out for it. So other than that, we're playing like what, 14 2Ks? Just 12. We're playing the Kabaji, the Moji, and then the Moji and Kabaji, these again. So not too surprising to see like the split for those ones. I don't know if I've ever really used this effect either, but not being able to be KO'd in battle is really nice. So otherwise, I know a lot of people like Daz Bones is just like another draw 2 trash 1. This also can be played played off this 7-drop Croc specifically, which is nice. So it doesn't have block or anything, but just the fact that it's a 5-drop 6k means it's a kind of a better stat line, which is helpful for the deck too. So not much more to say, but here's the build here, and congratulations to Takura for their finish with Buggy. Next up, we've got Monkey.D.Luffy, the blue and purple one. This is our only one that got an X1 finish, and this is Julian's build for it. And there is, you know, a little bit of spice, or a little bit of cards that I'm not used to seeing. One is the Boa Hancock. I think primarily the card that, you know, it's not a bad card, but we just don't see it as often. So on play, up to one of your opponent's characters other than Monkey.D.Luffy cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then place up to one character with the cost of 1 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. So there are a lot of matchups where you can just kind of snipe this a 1-drop every once in a while, but this also I think is like a great way, is like, I would say, like what, a pre-Katakuri, in the sense like the, you know, 8-drop Katakuri, you know, is one of the best defensive tools for this deck. We're playing 4 copies of it, but being able to play Boa Hancock first is, you know, if we're at like 7 Dawn, right? There's sometimes like, or you have to just play Boa and kind of hang out for it, and then next turn you can play Katakuri. And this card's been really, really absurd. I think a lot of people just having to respect like an 8-cost blocker that also gets to restand every turn. It means that you also get to like be a little bit greedier with your Dawn minus with its effect. It's been really, really solid. I've been seeing a lot of people kind of uptick the amount of copies they play in this deck too. So to success as well. So I think it's been really strong. We are playing like the Sanji, not surprising, with the Lin and the 1 copy of the Secret Rare. We are also playing the Dracul Mihawk as like another removal card. Being able to get rid of a 7 or lower is, you know, there are, I think like 8's still like one of the better like buffers. Like the fact that Mihawk just doesn't remove 8 costs is still a mild tragedy, but there are a lot of like 7 costs that this can hit, so this is really nice. Specifically against like green purple Luffy, you can still get rid of a Sanji peel-off if they have the Merry Go boost, so that's very good for you. We do have a lot of ramp events. We do have the Gear 2, the Gum Gum Giant, the Thunder Bagua, and the God Thread. So being able to get that removal and ramp is great. Being able to get the defense and ramp is great. The fact that we have like 8 cards that trigger off of life to get the, you know, Dawn active, which can just win you the game, if I'm being honest, if you hit it as your first one, so that helps you a lot too. And then just kind of our regular mix of like Straw Hat cards. So generally speaking, I think that blue purple Luffy is still a really good deck in this format. I don't think that's surprising really anyone. I think if anything, I think that in my personal opinion, and we'll see if it's true, I think black and purple Luffy might be giving it a bit of its run for its money, just because it can be very aggressive, and also just being that 7k base means that you as a 6k base it's a little bit worse for the deck in general. But I do think it's strong, and we have a real chance. You know, the blue purple Luffy is a strong deck. That's not controversial, right? Is that understood? I think that's understood. So here's the build though from Julian. Congratulations. And generally speaking, I think there will be a lot of cool builds and a lot of different builds of this deck, and I think that is something that is cool for a deck like this one. So there we go. Next up, we got Yamato. So this is Travis's deck for the event, and there was a star deck released for Yamato, but you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at the cards for this build. It is a pretty supernova base build. It is just kind of a defend the 8-drop kid deck, which I think is just really, really good for this leader. I think it's one of the better leaders to be able to do so. By using its leader effect, you can do something like play a 8-drop kid, and then also like on 8, and then still give it Dawn and get that effect. We're not playing, there definitely are some ads and some ads that we don't have that I think are a little bit interesting for this. Specifically, we aren't playing like the 2k Tashigi, because, you know, you can use Yamato on 10 to be able to play Kid, play out Rosinante, use your Kid effect to play out Tashigi, and, you know, still have Dawn for your 8-drop to be able to use its effects. So I do think that's strong, but we do have protection already with the Don Quixote Rosinante, as well as the Capone Gang Beige, which I think is very strong. I'm also kind of surprised we're not seeing any copies of the 2-drop Kid and Killer, just because we are also playing like cards like Blaze Slice, which being able to get that extra Dawn open during defense can be good. We are also playing like Bonney and also Cavendish, which just as like a vanilla we play for 6, I think is really interesting as an ad. So a really unique build, I would say, for this. I do think like if I was to play this Yamato deck, I would lean towards more of a defend 8-drop Kid build instead of a like more traditional like rush down build of it, but I think both decks are very viable, very strong. And I know like Fortress Yamato has been kind of theorized as a deck for a while, but I think this is like the first set that we can do so, even though we're not really using any of the new cards. But I do think, like, again, the green Supernova stuff that we got from the Bonney Star deck and green yellow stuff we got from the Yamato deck can be good for these decks, but apparently we don't need them. We can just play OP11 as is and still do pretty well. So not much more to say. Congratulations to Travis for their 8th place finish with Yamato. So those are our X1s. We're going to go into our X2, starting off with Newgate, which is this build here from Michael. And I've been saying that I think Newgate has a real chance to be very good into this meta. It did pretty well at the end of OP10 and EBO2. So I do think like it's still just a great aggressive deck, especially like in a meta where so many decks are like 6k leaders, 7k leaders, and they just kind of like coast off that being their identity to get out of attacks. Newgate just doesn't care. Newgate says, cool, anyways, I'm still attacking 6 every turn, and we really got to put out that pressure. So we do have a good amount of like rush cards too. We've got like the Ace and the Luffy being able to be these 5/6s, Luffy being able to be a 5/7, which is just a great attack into a 5k. We have the Izo as well, being able to use this to make our first attack like a 7k from our leader, and then also being able to get like real defense and turn all our cards into defensive cards, which is great. When you have the Ace, we have the single copy of the 9-drop and also 2 copies of the Goldie Roger. Being able to use this is very easy in Newgate since we are able to go to 0 life naturally, so that's helpful. And then also just kind of support with the Bad Manners Kick Course, the Rad Beam, the Divine Departure, and the Mole Gun too. So these are still, I think, really good removal cards for the deck. They can be a little bit expensive at times, but Divine Departure being able to be defensive is nice, and Mole Gun being able to just get some great removal against like a 7k is good as well. So by and large, I honestly do think Newgate has a real chance in this meta. We'll see if that's true outright, but it's still just so aggressive. There, your opponent really has to respect how many attacks you get out, and if they don't do that, you just kind of win. So here's the build here. Congratulations to Michael for their finish with the Newgate. Next up, we've got our green and a purple Luffy. So this is Austin's version of the build here, and nothing's really changed for this leader, right? We got just essentially a deck that popped down in EBO2, and then it's just viable for the foreseeable future, right? We are a purple Gum Gum Giant deck, right? We get to take advantage of. We do get to just be able, like, Sanji Pudding Surprising is the best card in this deck still. We really kind of revolve around how good this gets to, with our Dawn, and then if we're able to keep this around, then we just get like exponential resources because of it. So you're playing against, like, if you play against green purple Luffy, they're either like maxed out at 10 Dawn or they like are struggling around 5 or 6 Dawn, right? That's kind of like the gameplay for how this deck works. So I don't really see that many new techs for it. I know that Radio Knife has been kind of a bit of a newer ad for most builds, being able to get rid of a rest of 6 or less, but also being able to get rid of a 5 or less just means that this is good for like either the mid game, or it could be really great in the late game if you kind of need this to go for game. Uso Hachi is still like a really good card for this deck, but sometimes we have a hard time being at 8 Dawn, so because of that, having Radio Knife instead I think is good. So we're not playing any copies of Electrical Luna, which is fine. I think some decks, I think that card was like polarizingly very good, and specifically the EBO2 meta. I think it's still a really good card here, but it doesn't hit every deck that exists now, so I do think it's like, again, a bit of a decision. But and then otherwise, 6-drop Luffy is such a great way to end the game, specifically in this deck, but also like a lot of other purple Luffys, so that's fine. But here's a build here from Austin. Congratulations for their finish with the green purple Luffy. Next up, we've got purple Luffy. So this is the end of our top 16 unique leaders, but we have this build here from Tass, and I think a lot of people, and I was tracking a lot of the Japanese meta in OP11, and purple Luffy didn't really do anything until more towards the end of the format. And I think pretty much what people theorize is, what, this deck gets to really take advantage of how good 8-drop Katakuri is in this deck, just because we do kind of have this issue in the late game where we kind of need to use like the 9-drop Luffy or an effect like that, and then afterwards we just don't have ways to keep our Dawn active or be at 10, or like, Giant kind of affects us a little bit on our next plays. So being able to play Katakuri, being able to be really defensive with it, especially like if we already established like a Luffy Taro on the previous turn on 7 and then we can Katakuri afterwards, we just get to keep attacking. We get to defend our 6Ks a little bit easier. We get to like still have like one Dawn open for Giant most of the time. And, 8-drop Katakuri is such a tough, nut to crack a lot of the time. So other than that, like 9-drop Luffy is just super good in this format still for this deck. Being able to just be like the fact that it like draws a card, the fact that you get to attack as a 10k. 10k is also just really good specifically in like any Luffy matchups, because even if you're playing against the blue and purple Luffy, is 10-6 just means they still have to like Giant and then lose a card. Even if you get blocked by like an 8-drop Katakuri on the other side, they still have to give you like a 2k and another card. So generally speaking, I think this is still like a really good card in this format, and helps out in a lot. Like if you're able to establish this on curve, it can really kind of change the tempo of the game. So other than that, I think you guys kind of know what purple Luffy's look like. We are playing like the new Chopper, which is great for like the mirror match to be able to rest on, which is generally unheard of for like purple in general. So that's very, very strong for it. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Tass for their finish with the purple Luffy. So other than that, we do have 3 additional X2 decks. They're all green decks, and we're going to start off with Bonney. So here's the build here from Nicholas, who is playing this copy of Bonney. We did get a whole new starter deck for it, and none of the cards are in this one, right? You would not be able to tell, which is super funny for Bonney and Yamato, especially because personally those are 2 of the ones that I'm looking forward to doing more deck building with in the future. But not finding room for the Kid and Killer in this build, which I think is a bit of a shame. I think that card is really, really good. I know that the Law and Beppo is a little bit more of a decision card, but this is still like a Bonney to go into 9-drop Zoro build, which if we're in like day 1 of the format, right, I think a lot of people aren't like expecting to try to get rid of Zoro as often, and this card is still very good. So or at least it's good if you're able to keep it on board for that extra turn. So, when attacking and activate main, you're able to restand this card so you can attack with it many times in the same turn, which, guess what? Like Giant, sure, can make your, can get out a lot of attacks, but with 10 Dawn with this card, right, you have, you get to use 7 of the Dawn for leader, for your Zoro, and then have the other 3. So you have 3 16k attacks, which is generally unheard of in this game otherwise. So that's just still a lot of pressure, and even with Giant, like you have to respect how much those attacks are. So other than that, kind of the rest of the deck is just getting to the late game just in a healthy spot, so we can afford to play either like one of our big bombs of like Zoro or Shanks. We still play Hody, which is still like one of the best finishers in this game right now, and Bonney can really take advantage of that too. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Nicholas for their finish with Bonney. The next up, we've got Smoker. So this is Tito's version of the deck here. And Smoker was also a deck that I would say that I was less hopeful for in this format. I do know that they did get a lot of new support with the Red Navy side of the OP11 set. And, an X2 finish, I think, is a good start for the deck. And I really think that, I'm hopeful to see what else is able to go with Smoker for the next couple weeks. But this is, again, the build here from Tito. The first card we've got is the Kujaku here, which is just a great searcher. So looks top 5 for a Navy type added to your hand, and then also activate main. You can trash this card to give one of your characters the plus 1000 at power for this turn. This can help you in also like a lot of situations where for our leader effect for Smoker, we need to have something with 7k power or more. So if the Dawn doesn't make sense, there are some situations where like, this is like, let's say we play this on 1 and then we play Sanji on 3, we can then like pop the Q Jaku if we need to, and then make this a 7k, then get the 2 Dawn back active. So generally there are some like these weirder turns where if you need to be able to get that boost without spending any Dawn, you can do that, which is kind of nice. So otherwise, like just still like aggressively getting that plus 1000, I think is really good. So other than that, we do have like X Drake, which is just like get to 2k, which you don't mind playing at a 6 cost 7k either, which I think is great. We do have like the Newgate, not Newgate, the Captain Kid, which we are playing that. We are playing the 2 songs as well, the Peak as well as the We Are. In this deck, they're functionally the same card, right? Just being able to search for anything with a cost 4 or more, which includes Chopper, Smoker, and our Hody and Kid. So being able to do that's good, especially like since Smoker gets to kind of get 2 Dawn for free every turn, you don't mind using 2 for a search. We are playing the 10-layer Igloo, the Mulgun, and then Honesty Impact, which is a new card as well. So Navy and Sword type main give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 4,000 power during this turn. Then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 6k power or less. So it's like another copy of the Gum Mulgun. It hits a little bit harder, but it's a little bit more expensive, right? But functionally, being able to get rid of 10 costs, I think, is really strong for this this card, because you are able to get rid of, like, in like purple and blue Luffy, you can pretty much hit any card that they put on the board because of this too, which is really, really nice. So not much more to say, right? But being able to do this is great. Being also the trigger effect, being able to KO a 6k power less is relevant, I think, too. And it was really cool to see Smoker get this X2 finish. And again, I'm curious to see how it does for the rest of the format. So again, this is Tito's build. Congratulations for their finish there. And wrapping up, we've got Justin with their build of Carrot. Again, one of the leaders that I've been really looking forward to doing some more testing with. It's gotten like a good amount of support in the last little bit. So we did get in EVO2 the 1-drop Carrot on play. If you have 3 or more Dawn cards in your field, look top 7 of your deck. We go up to 1 Zoe, which is our field. Add to your hand, then place the rest of your bottom of your deck in any order, and then you get to play 1 from your hand. We do also have the Law and Beppo here. So this is just a really good card that we get. That is a Minx card, right? The fact that it's Law and Beppo, it is Minx type, which means that we do get to get the advantage of the card in this deck, right? The fact that it's searchable off of the Wanda, I think, is really great. The fact that it's a Minx card is good. It means that you can also make this leader a 7k leader, which is cool. And there's just like a lot of benefits for this deck with Carrot as well. So we are also playing the Bart, which I really love this ad for the deck, just because like we need to kind of filter cards from our hand. We do have like the Zoe, which is a really good card. Like when she set it up, right? The fact that you get an extra Dawn every turn, the fact that you get to set your Minx cards active at the end of your turn means that you can use it to protect like your Carrot, or like if you have like a blocker that you needed to attack with, like for example, you can attack with Pedro and then you can restand as a blocker afterwards, which is good. So all of that I think are great kind of copies for it. But yeah, Bart in this deck, when we can use Carrot to, you know, rest their things, is really nice. I think we could also, like with how the build is, we could afford to play like a Supernova Searcher. We also could play 8-drop Kid eventually too, just because like if we want that to be how we use this is good. But I also think like Dofi is great in this leader specifically, just because like we are resting things proactively with our leader effect, so Dofi can really buy you another turn if we already have a wide board. And I think that's something great for Carrot in general. So I really do think like this deck is pretty viable in this meta. I have to do more testing of my own, but by and large I think there's some great things with the deck too. So this is the build for Justin. Congratulations for their finish there. But that's going to be it for this video. Again, thank you guys for watching this one and supporting these events. I do think that this is a really cool format, and I kind of look forward to some future events. We do have like our first big one in Florida this weekend too. So not much more to say. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.